I think what you can do as a human being, you can hopefully leave behind enough that somebody can look at your work and say, oh, I get it.
Hi everyone, welcome to The Empire Interviews. Yes, where we like to interview everybody from pastors to actors, rappers to trappers, and everybody in between. My name is Antonio D. Miles, your host for today. Yes, Antonio D. Miles, the one and the only, the real one, not the phony. If you don't know, then you just don't know me. And yes, we have another great guest today. But before we get into it, you know what to do, ladies and gentlemen. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. You know, we're doing some great stuff out here for the community, for the people, and for your information, right? And so, let's just get right down to the juice. We have a great gentleman here, cartoonist, artist, man for good health, which we just learned about recently, helping the community, helping children, and so much more. Phil Yeh. Welcome to the podcast, Phil.
Welcome. Hello. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. How's your day been so far?
It's been good. This is the start of my day, I guess. I started the day at 1:30 in the morning. I started drawing and painting. So this is I guess I'm speaking. So this is the start of a public day.
Gotcha. 1:30 in the morning. That's so gnarly. Every day?
Well, I usually, we go to bed about 9 o'clock at night, and I usually get up between 2, 3, 4, something like that.
Okay.
I get up because I don't require a lot of sleep.
Okay.
I've been doing this since I was a kid.
So it's like basically it's like ingrained.
It's ingrained. When I get up, when I hit the pillow, I go right to sleep. When I get up, whenever I get up, I just go to my studio and start drawing.
Gotcha. What was the drawing for today?
I'm working on a new series of comic strips, actually.
Okay.
So I'm doing a series of comic strips based on my character, Frank the Unicorn, which is the character I developed in 1980.
Wow.
And it's my wife's favorite character is Frank, and I couldn't draw with pen and ink because I had a stroke 10 years ago, 11 years ago, whatever, 12 years ago, who knows? Mm-hmm. But so my stroke prevented me from really drawing the way I used to. So I wasn't really drawing comic strips, but that skill has come back. So I'm hard at work. So I'm also painting. So I'm drawing and painting and switch back and forth.
Cool.
So
since you brought it up, I kind of want to talk about it a little bit. Like, how has having the stroke kind of affected your artwork?
It's changed my artwork because I hold the pen differently. Mm-hmm. And at first when I had the stroke, I couldn't draw at all. I couldn't even write my name or anything.
Wow.
And so for the first 3 to 6 months, I basically just gardened. I didn't worry about it. Mm-hmm. And I knew I could draw with my left hand because when I was a kid, my mother switched me from being left-handed to being right-handed. They felt that, that was normal or something.
Like culturally normal.
Culturally normal.
Yeah.
So I always did some things with my left hand anyway. So I knew that I would draw again, even if I couldn't draw with my right hand. But so now I actually draw with both hands. So I paint with both hands because I forget sometimes. My wife was pointing out to me that when I'm painting, sometimes I just switch hands without thinking about it. But the point. The reason I bring it up is because I think a lot of people who have strokes, they give up.
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't think anyone should give up. And I think it's so important. If you're an artist or whatever you do, you find a way.
Make it work.
Yeah, you make it work, because giving up, if you give up something that's so important, art is my life. I would do art in some way. I would have to, in some way. So I always think if I lost my sight, my friend, when I was growing up in Los Angeles, my friend was going blind, and he eventually went completely blind, but he was a great musician. He
still had his ears.
He could play all his instruments, and he was so talented, and I never forgot that, because having a friend who is going blind, when you're a kid, you really think, wow, you really see the world differently.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of friends who they had various disabilities.
Yeah.
And so I always identify with them, the underdog, as you might say.
Wow, that's amazing. Super cool. And I think that's the most important thing, is when you give up, you've already lost. But if you know that, hey, there's a way, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Phil, for people who may not know who you are and what you do, can you please tell all of us who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Phil Yeh, and I was born in Chicago, but I only lived there for a few months. My dad is a Chinese engineer, an aerospace engineer, and my mother she used to be a secretary for the Scott Forsman Publishing Company in Chicago. They got married, and I was born, and then my father got a job in New Jersey. So they had to move. We moved. My brother and my two sisters were born in New Jersey, and then at the age of 6, my father got a job in Los Angeles for aerospace, and it was great. So we moved at the age of 6 to Los Angeles, and it was only later, like when my dad was 90, that I was driving him in Palos Verdes, and he said to me, well, the reason they couldn't move to Palos Verdes because his good friend, who was an engineer also, Franco Artuzio, moved to Palos Verdes, was because my father was in an interracial marriage. And I didn't realize, nobody ever explained this to me at the time, if you were my dad being Chinese, my mother's white, you couldn't move just anywhere. That was how bad it was in California at the time. So I didn't know that.
What year was this?
That was in 1961 or 60. Okay. So it was, not that far away or that long ago, but obviously things have changed. But so we moved into a neighborhood that was very multi-ethnic. Mm-hmm. It was very multi-ethnic until the Watts riots in 1965 happened. And in 1965, there were riots, there were National Guard in our streets and everything else. And not to mention a lot of burning, both movie theaters I went to as a kid were burned to the ground. So after 1965, anybody that could got out. Mm-hmm. But my mother said the famous quote, she's passed away, my father passed away, but her quote was, "We're not prejudiced," which I used to always add, "We're just dumb," because the neighborhood was getting really tough. And it didn't matter what color you were. It's just everybody who could got out.
Yeah.
And my mother, we stayed. So I started high school at George Washington High School, which was 99% African American. And a lot of times when I tell people where I grew up, they always say, "Oh, how did you survive?" I survived very well.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends, and I always think
People have a misinterpretation.
misinterpretation. They always say, "Oh my God." Well, if they're white. So they always say, "Oh my God." And I always say, I didn't say anything was wrong with my neighborhood. See, that's the thing that I always remind people of. There was nothing wrong with my neighborhood. Nothing. Yes, we had problems. There were gangs and so forth.
Yeah.
But that's a small minority of the people.
Yep.
And what that really and made me realize my whole life, I always fought for the underdog or for everyone, for inclusion. Long before diversity became, like it is now.
Yeah, popular.
Yeah. I was making my books, my cartoons about all my friends. So there were kids of Chinese kids and African American kids and Mexican kids and everybody. And this was long before it became, politically correct.
When did you start drawing?
I started drawing at the age of 2.
Okay.
So my father, his big quote to me was, I didn't have any toys. My father said, "You don't need toys. You're going to grow up." And I thought, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my father gave me paper, and I had pens and crayons, and I just started drawing. And I always drew, and I never, ever thought about toys, ever. And so this is important to me because I think that everybody draws. Everybody can draw. But usually by the time kids are, say, second grade or third grade, they stop.
Okay.
But it's interesting because everybody can eat cookies. So if you're 5 years old, you want a cookie? Sure.
Yeah, give me a cookie.
Give me a cookie. But in third, fourth grade, you say, "Can you draw?" "Oh, I don't draw. I can't draw." Well, you were drawing at 5 years old. What happened? So this is why I promote art all over the world. And what I do is I always tell kids, just keep drawing. You have to do it professionally,
Yeah.
but please do it. Make music, do art,
Yeah.
do something. Create.
Yeah.
Because I always tell kids, don't be an audience watching the TV or whatever, now the phone.
Yeah.
I say, look, I was lucky enough to know all the guys who created Superman and Marvel, the whole Marvel universe, Jack Kirby, I met when I was 15. All these people, they put their dreams down on paper. And they're writers, like Ray Bradbury, who was a good friend of mine. So I always tell kids.
What did Ray Bradbury write for people who may not know?
Well, Ray Bradbury wrote his classic book is Fahrenheit 451. But he wrote a lot of really excellent short novels, short stories. They're not really science fiction. It's more like speculative. They have a term for it. But I don't care about labels. I just believe that Ray Bradbury is really important because Ray Bradbury didn't go to college. He went to the UCLA library where he put a dime in it cost a dime to use the typewriter. So he put a dime in and he would type his manuscripts at the UCLA library. But he couldn't afford college. And it's another thing. I always tell people it's not important to, to be an artist or to be a writer or to be a musician or an actor. You don't need college, okay? To be an engineer like my father, or to be a doctor, you need college. I don't think you want a doctor operating on you
that didn't go to college.
I think this will work.
That's scary.
Yeah. But for other things, you don't need college. And I think it's really overrated to tell people you need to go to college. So my dad, I was eldest son of a Chinese engineer, 4 kids, always said, you're going to college. I didn't want to go to college. I had no interest in college. But I went because my dad said, you're going to college. But I was tossed out eventually. But anyway, the point is, college is not suitable for all people. I have dyslexia. So my dyslexia means I can't spell. And it's not so bad that I can't read. I can read, but I can't spell. And I can't do math. So when I met Ray Bradbury when I was 15 years old at the first San Diego Comic Convention, I asked Ray, I said, I would like to be a writer, but I can't spell. And Ray said, don't worry, there's editors. I didn't know what an editor was.
Got you.
I said,
like that.
What's an editor? And an editor is evidently somebody who corrects your spelling and corrects your grammar. And I thought, this is perfect.
That's perfect. Before spell check.
Yeah, before spell check.
I love it.
So right away, I turned to Jack Kirby, who was the other guest. Jack Kirby created the whole Marvel universe. And I said to Jack,
He worked with Stan Lee?
Yeah, Stan Lee will not be discussed in this interview.
Okay.
But Jack Kirby, who created the whole Marvel universe, Jack said, my friend Shane Noguchi in Los Angeles said, Phil, you should be a comic book artist. I didn't read comic books because my mother didn't think they were good. So I said to Jack, listen, my friend Shane thinks I should be a comic book artist. What do I do? And Jack said, basically, just do it. I was 15, I was going to be 16 that October. It was the summer, 1970. And I said, well, Jack Kirby says I should just do it. Ray Bradbury says I don't have to worry about my spelling, get an editor.
I love it.
So in October of that year, I started my own publishing company. And I've never looked back. I've done so many books. And I always tell this story because I want every kid to know you can start writing, you can start drawing, you can start making movies, you can start making anything, you can do anything, playing music. At any age, you don't need a driver's license to play the piano.
That's it.
See?
You're never too old or too young.
Yeah. And so it's important, I think, that people understand it doesn't matter how old you are. And it's really critical because everybody makes excuses for why they're not doing whatever it is they want to do. And I always say, forget the excuses, just do it.
Just do it.
And you're going to get better at it. You're not going to start off drawing great. So what? Nobody starts off drawing great or playing piano or whatever the first time. First year, first 2 years, maybe it takes 5 years. So what? It doesn't matter. Practice makes perfect.
Gotcha.
And so that's the message that I always talk about. And I should mention that when I was in second grade, I moved to Los Angeles, West Athens Elementary School. My friend was Patrice Rushen. Patrice became a very, very famous jazz pianist, and she did the music for Men in Black and many other things. But more importantly, she started piano lessons at USC when she was 5 years old. Her parents enrolled her in a special program they had for little kids. And by the time I met her in second grade, she was already playing, and she just played music. I was the smallest boy in school all through elementary and junior high school, and Patrice was the smallest girl. I like to say we were friends because we were short, but
got you.
It's really nothing to do with that. We were friends because I liked a lot of creative things, and she liked creative things, and so we hit it off. And so I mention that because Patrice is still important. I don't see her that often, but I see her usually at the Watts Jazz Festival at the Watts Towers, which, by the way, is my favorite man-made landmark in the world.
Awesome.
And the Watts Towers was built by Simon Rodia, 1921 to 1954. This one guy, this short guy, Italian immigrant, built these towers, and the people of Watts, they built a cultural center around it. My friend David Brown was teaching there for a while, and it really is a wonderful place.
It's magnificent.
Yeah.
Phil, so you mentioned Kirby was Stan Kirby, right? Is that his name?
Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby, pardon me, created the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
Correct? So, two things. When did you fall in love with drawing? And who is your favorite artist?
Well, my favorite artist of all time is Vincent van Gogh.
Okay.
And Van Gogh is really self-taught as a painter. My favorite book is The Little Prince. The Little Prince is my favorite book.
Okay.
It's very dreamlike and very magical. But among comic book artists, I have many, and many of these guys have become friends over the years. So I was lucky because when I started my career at 16, I started doing comics myself. I would go to San Diego Comic Convention. It was 300 kids at the first one. It grew to 500 kids, to 1,000, until 10 years passed, probably we had 10,000.
Gotcha.
Now it's San Diego Comic-Con is worldwide.
Easily.
And it's 150,000. It's the maximum they can hold at the convention center, but they have all these, outside the convention center. Mm-hmm. So it's really growing to be a big thing. And the primary reason is because of movie stars.
Of course.
Because the Marvel Universe, the things that all the nerds liked when we were kids, well, now the nerds have taken over the world.
It's become mainstream.
It's become mainstream.
Yeah.
So.
And when did you fall in love with drawing and art?
I fell in love with drawing when I was 2.
Okay, immediately.
Immediately. I love to draw. I love to put ideas. My ideas can be wild ideas, crazy ideas.
Yeah.
But doesn't matter. I always draw for myself.
That's how you should, yeah. It's expression.
Yeah, that's it. And the only thing that I don't do in my books, the reason nobody will ever know my stuff, is because I don't do any violence in my books. And the reason for that is because I grew up in an area where the gangs started in my high school. And I thought, we have enough violence. There's too much violence.
Yeah.
And I hate guns. And so I always get in trouble when I say this, but I say it anyway. I hate guns. And I think that we would be a lot better off without any guns, period. So my books do not have any violence, and my work has no violence. It doesn't mean that I'm not aware of the real world. I am very aware of the real world, but I want to draw something, project something that's not violent.
I agree.
Because we have so much violence. Okay, if you want to see violence, you can go turn on the TV.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to see violence, then my work is, it's a rest.
Yes, it's here for you. Yes. And it might sound like a redundant question or not, but let's go with it not being redundant. What does being a cartoonist, an artist, mean to you?
It means freedom, total freedom. The reason I publish my own books and draw my own work and do my own thing is because I don't want anyone telling me what to do. And I'm proud of the fact that I've always been independent. And it's not for everyone. A lot of my friends work for DC or Marvel or any company or animation, television, whatever. And that's all well and good. I have managed to eke out a living by totally being independent, which means that for me, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And that's the best thing for me, and I think for an artist, for any artist, is to just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I promote that idea to all people because a lot of people always tell me, well, I think I'm going to be an artist or I want to paint. As I've spoken over the last 40 years, I've spoken around the world. And I've run into so many people who say, because of you, I'm an artist. And some of these people have become very famous. And that really does my heart good. Because you don't think when you're speaking at a school to a 10-year-old, that 10-year-old's going to grow up to be a famous guy. You don't know. I mean, you have no idea. But I always say the same thing to everybody. I say, just do it. The same advice I was given when I was a kid. Yeah. Just do it. And that's the best advice that I ever got. Jack Kirby's advice was just do it. And, because I said to Jack, my dad was right there. He drove me down to the first convention because I couldn't drive. I was 15. I said, what college do I have to go to become a comic book artist? And this was 1970.
Okay.
There was no colleges for comic book artists. Jack Kirby, that's why he said, hey, just do it. And I said, that's great. And my father was shocked because here was a professional telling me to just do it.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's great advice. Great advice. And so I've tried to give that advice to everybody ever since.
So we definitely give a lot of credit and thanks to Jack Kirby.
Absolutely. And Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury actually came to San Bernardino in 2007. We had him here at the library. And my wife organized the events at the Feldheim Library. And so Linda Adams Yeh, and she was responsible for bringing Ray to the library. We couldn't we had so many people that wanted to come to see Ray. The auditorium at the library only holds 250 people.
Oh, wow.
So we moved it to the slipped my mind. You know, the place right down the street. It'll come to me. You'll look it up and Google it.
Okay.
It's right down the street. It seats 700 people. The mayor, Mayor Morris, he got permission. We moved it, and we filled the whole place.
Oh, yeah.
And Ray Bradbury signed every book. Everybody brought books. He signed the books.
Each and every one.
All afterwards, he was done talking, and he just sat there and signed books.
Man, kudos to him.
Yeah, it was great. It was really great. And so I think that Ray and Jack, they both did a lot for me personally, but their example.
Yeah, pass the torch.
They set the example that I picked up on in my life. And so I hope that other people will pick up on my example and go out and speak to schools and speak to kids and, just keep it going, because we need to have the arts. The only way the arts can flourish, thrive, is artists and writers and actors and musicians need to go out and talk to the young people.
Yeah.
Because young people, when you're young and you don't know any artist or writer or actor or musician, you don't have the slightest idea, how do I get in to that?
Yes.
You want to do it, but you think, what do I do? So that's why it's so important. So I speak at schools all around the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
Phil, what inspires your work?
Just people. I never run out of ideas, ever. I have books. I'm working on 3 books now. I never run out of ideas because I'm engaged with people. I'm always meeting people like yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm just meeting people all the time, and they're always telling me about their life and what they're doing, and that inspires me. I think, well, I could write a story about a kid who plays piano. And so that's just life, just living your life, and you're meeting people. And so I've never run out of ideas. I'm always traveling. I walk in the woods. I live in the mountains with my wife, and we walk in the woods, and it's great. Nature inspires me. But here I am in San Bernardino again. But I travel all the time, and when I'm traveling, I'm always meeting people because I like people. I like talking to people. And so, that's the short answer.
I like it. It's like art inspires life, and life inspires art.
Yeah, exactly. And what's great about art is I've got Celtic blood. I'm Scottish and Welsh on my mother's side. Mm-hmm. And I tell you this, one thing about the Celtic people, the Celtic gene is a gene for exaggeration.
Okay.
And this is great because I think I got enough Celtic blood in me that when I tell a story, I tend to embellish the story.
All right.
So it's kind of like Donald Trump for good.
Okay. Okay. We like embellishments.
Yeah. But it's like, why make it boring?
Yeah.
It's life is already pretty mundane. Let's say it's regular. So if I was writing the story in San Bernardino, I would have maybe an alien land a spaceship in an empty lot here
At the Garcia Center.
At the Garcia Center.
Yes.
And visit people. And so you don't something can happen, and you never know. And that's the really great thing about writing or drawing. You can make anything happen.
Yeah.
And that's why, I don't personally run out of ideas because anything goes.
Yeah, it's limitless.
It's limitless.
Yeah. So tell me about this title, The Godfather of the Graphic Novel.
Well, in 1977, the father of the graphic novel is called Will Eisner. Will Eisner is credited for his book in 1978. Well, in 1977, my friend Richard Kyle in Long Beach, where I went to college, Richard Kyle did a graphic novel. He published a graphic novel 6 months before I published mine. So my book, Even Casco Gets the Blues, was really one of the first all-new graphic novels. And the reason that I got the term Godfather of the graphic novel is because Will Eisner came along a year later and everyone started saying, Will Eisner, the father of the graphic novel. And he was a lot older than me and he was a lot more famous. But I thought as years went on, well, I think the term Godfather sounds better anyway.
Yeah.
So I think either way, what was important, my friend, we have to credit Richard Kyle. He coined the term graphic novel in 1964 at a science fiction convention, and he always advocated, he had a bookstore in Long Beach, he always advocated that comic books were too cheap. They were printed on cheap paper, they were 12 cents, 15 cents, and they were too cheap. And that no one was going to take it seriously. It was printed, throwaway.
Okay.
So he said, why don't we make a comic book really, really, could be 80 pages, beginning, a middle, and an end, just like a regular novel. And so, and make the price a lot more money than 20 cents, 25 cents.
Gotcha. Because the paper is also better.
Yeah, paper's better, make it bigger, put your name on the cover big. So when I did my graphic novel, I put my name big on the cover, and I charged $5 for the book.
What year is this?
1977. And at that time, 1977, a book for $5 for a comic book was unheard of. I was crazy. I went to the book show. The book show, the National Book Show, I had a booth. And to show you how insane I was the only one at the book show that had a graphic novel. Of course, nobody else had them. But I was the only one at the book show with this graphic novel. And I was totally on my own because bookstores thought, well, what do we do with this? They weren't interested. And I thought, oh, here's my problem. So I started sending copies of my book to a lot of famous guys in the industry. Within a year, they had graphic novels because they saw this young kid, I was 21 at the time, doing this thing, or I was maybe 23, and they thought, why are we doing this? Why don't we sell $5? So a lot of guys started doing it. And I needed other people to do it because I realized that having one of the few graphic novels was a mistake. Because the comic book stores, here I was, $5, the average comic book was 25 cents. I was nuts. So I said, well, we have to get a lot of other people to make this happen.
Yeah, to get on board.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Will Eisner did his in 1978. Then a flood of graphic novels came into being. And that was good. Now, graphic novels, they're in libraries.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so hard to get into libraries because the librarians thought, what? This was unheard of in 1977. So it took a lot of work, but it was worth it. It was worth it because I've done so many graphic novels now, but I wanted to make a case for a book that was drawn, written, and produced by myself as a standalone work of art.
Yeah.
So you would have this graphic novel like you have any other book, Mark Twain or whatever, Steinbeck or somebody, in other words, it doesn't go out of print. Mm-hmm. You still can read Hemingway or whatever, you know.
Yep.
So this is the thing. You have to be a pioneer to make a difference. But
and a visionary.
Yeah, you have to have a vision. And I think not being tied down to any other company, I never had any rules.
Yeah.
So I was my own publisher. So I just said, well, I'm going to do a graphic novel. Then I did another one. And so I have 100 books now.
Wow.
And they're not all graphic novels. They're, my new book is Places is my paintings, but they're all my work, self-published,
Yeah.
And I don't, some people say, well, you're self-published, that's bad. And I said, no, it's not bad. It's good.
Yeah. See, people are, there's haters out there. People always have their own opinion, they're haters,
Yeah.
What I really did like about your intuition, which was like, I can't do this graphic novel on my own. I need to, and what was also cool is that you were connected, that you can send it to your other people in the industry, and they're like, hey, we need to get on this. And then it basically kind of like snowballed effect after that, which I thought was really, really awesome. And we're actually in a studio of a bunch of your art right now. It's super amazing. What is your favorite medium to use for creating? Like paint, pencil?
Well, pen and ink for my cartoon work, and then for my paintings on the wall here, most of them are watercolors, but the ones behind me are actually oils. This was for a children's book that I did 30 years ago, whatever. It's a long time now. But but I prefer, if I'm going to do color, watercolors. And then in my life is watercolors and pen and ink. That's pretty much it for me now. But I've done a lot of oils.
But watercolors are definitely the go-to.
It's my go-to. And the watercolors, people think it's the hardest medium. It's only hard, it's like working without a net. What you put down stays down, whatever.
Oh, there's no going back.
There's no going back. There's no overpainting. So a lot of people can't stand the idea of watercolors because there's no making mistakes.
Gotcha.
But I love the fact that what you put down is what you put down. So I like to work without a net. And I also do murals. So I do big murals. I have one at the McDonald's Museum, but I have murals. I painted over 2,000 murals around the world. And 49 states in America and 18 countries around the world.
I love it.
So these are, some of them are as big as city bus and city trucks. And they could be as small as, foam core 4x8. But the point is, I love working big.
Of course, yeah.
And so that also gives me a lot of joy.
So for watercolors, and I definitely want to get to the murals too. Like, so for example, behind us, I see an ice cream cone, right? So do you ever like intend on drawing something and then you get something else out and you're just like, well, I'll just leave it because, and then you just keep working from there? How does that work with the watercolors for you?
Well, when I do watercolors, these are oils, but if I did it in watercolor, whatever I put down stays down. And so whatever comes out, what's really fun is when I work in watercolors, I can splatter paint across a canvas.
So those over here are watercolors over here?
Yeah, these are watercolors. And so I can really just be really free. So you don't know what's going to happen. And that's how I like it. It's like jazz music. It's like Patrice Rushen is a jazz pianist.
Yes.
And so when I paint with watercolors, it's like I'm doing jazz.
Gotcha. You're improv.
Yeah, I'm improv. So
yeah.
I love it. And it's like comedy. I used to do comedy. I had a radio show in college, and we did a comedy radio show. And one of the things that I love about public speaking, people say public speaking is their most fearful thing is public speaking.
Yes, yeah.
I love public speaking. I can't read a speech. I'm terrible. If you give me something to read, I'm terrible. But if I just talk like I'm doing now, I just talk.
You just let it flow.
Just let it flow.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach my comedy. When I did comedy, I just make up just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
So I love it because I love getting myself into trouble, so to speak, because somebody will bring up a subject and say, "Oh, I bet you can't make a comedy about this."
Okay.
And I'll say, "Well, you can make pretty much anything in comedy."
Definitely agree.
So it's kind of like a challenge, and I think I get that from being in the neighborhood I grew up in. I always made people laugh. My friends, I was the smallest kid in school, and my friends, I always entertained my friends, always. I never got into fights, never had a problem with bullies or anything like that. You think that I'm the smallest kid in school, it's 99% African American people are, "Oh my God, how did you survive?" And I say, first of all, I survived very well because I had a lot of friends. Why do you think I wouldn't survive?
Yeah, that's that misconception.
Yeah, misconception. You think your thinking is bad.
Yeah.
Why? I didn't say it was bad. I said I grew up near Watts.
Yeah.
I never said it was bad.
That part.
And so
they just hear Watts and.
Yeah, and when I came to do the mural in San Bernardino, a lot of people told me, "Oh, it's a ghetto."
San Bernardino?
It's San Bernardino. And I said, I was out there painting the walls outside the mural for years. And I knew the people coming by, walking by, talking to everybody. And what was the ghetto about this? Nothing. It was it's a poor neighborhood in some places, so what?
Yeah.
This is the thing I'm always talking about. Just because someone's poor doesn't mean they're not smart, doesn't mean they're not happy, doesn't mean, you don't have to say it's bad, it's a bad neighborhood. No, it's not. So that is another reason I told Ernie Garcia before he opened the Garcia Center, I said to Ernie, get a place on East Street. I have a vision. We're going to take all of East Street, we're going to reinvent it. We're going to make it really something. And he did this. Garcia Center is Ernie. My vision, Ernie made it come to life. And Ernie is in his 90s now, and he's retired. And he's got young people, and they've got this garden going here. Yeah. It's really great.
They're doing a great job.
Yeah, and all the rooms and everything. So it's great to see it happening. It could happen a little faster, in my opinion, but that's okay. You know, I know things take time.
Yeah.
But when I was up at the McDonald's mural, I was always telling anybody who would listen, I say, come on, start a business. Start a restaurant, but not a hamburger or taco. Please start a different kind of restaurant, something new, something unique, but definitely your own, not a chain. So we have to see. I'm 90% vegetarian, and I would like to see more options.
For vegetarians.
For vegetarians.
I agree.
So
some healthy options.
Healthy options. And we have Loma Linda's right off of the freeway.
Yeah.
And Loma Linda has lots of healthy options because they're vegetarian.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny.
It's like a blue zone, right?
Yeah, it's a blue zone.
Yeah.
And here in San Bernardino, we got to be like super red zone.
I was going to say red zone too.
But that doesn't matter. That is a choice. Yeah. And I'm choosing to be a vegetarian. I had a stroke, and I think anybody can make a difference. You can change.
Just takes one person.
That's right. And I used to eat plenty of hamburgers like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I don't eat hamburgers. I haven't eaten beef in 30 years. And what I'm saying is you can make a choice. You can make a difference, especially for kids. Especially for kids.
It happens with the youth.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You have to.
You know, one of the things that I liked about your paintings, and I saw it mostly in places, and I could see it in the watercolors here, is your depth.
Yeah.
There's like, there's here, it's here, and it's here, and it's like, and honestly, it's kind of amazing because it's even just with watercolors alone that you're creating the depth of field when you only get one chance to do it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I really liked about your artistry work that I noticed is like, there's depth. It's like it's here, there's layers to it, and I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail, and I love detail, and that's another thing that I talk to kids about. I have nothing against manga, nothing against the current crop of artists that people love, but I say to kids all the time, draw something unique. Don't just copy Batman or manga or whatever.
Okay.
Draw something of your own. Make your own characters. My friends, they developed the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Gotcha.
Kevin Eastman is my friend, but he's on the mural in McDonald's. I got him to come out here. And what is important to understand is that when him and Peter Laird invented the Ninja Turtles, they did it on $1,500, a tax refund that I think is Kevin's uncle had. They printed their own books, and it became a worldwide success.
Yeah, I love Ninja Turtles.
And so I always tell people their story, because Kevin has been a big supporter of mine over the years, and I cannot say this enough. They invented these turtles that were ninjas. This is so ridiculous.
Radioactive.
You're radioactive, right?
Raised by a rat.
Yeah. And so this is so outrageous. It's so, left field, right?
Loved it.
It doesn't have anything to do with Superman or Batman or anything. It's totally unique and a successful.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that kids can invent their own characters as well. You know, not manga, not superheroes, and don't do Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
But come up with something unique, because that is what the public wants. The public loves unique things.
Yeah.
They want, you know, something different.
Yeah.
And before you say, oh, everything's been done before, let me tell you, if you go in the encyclopedia and look up, just take mammals, look up all the kinds of mammals there are. Believe me, there's millions of mammals.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that people understand, and also for legends. You know, my friend Stan Sakai does Usagi Ojimbo, a rabbit with a sword.
Okay.
And he writes about Japanese samurai in the old days. So he's a Japanese guy. So he writes about his culture.
Yeah.
That's great. There's a lot of cultures out there that we haven't even begun to explore. I was talking to a guy the other day who is Mexican, but he's not, you know, Aztec. He's from another part of Mexico. He speaks another dialect, not Spanish, not as Azteca. He speaks a totally different dialect. I'm sure he has legends, you know, in his
stories. Yeah.
Stories. So I think you can find stories in any culture, and you can mix and match. That's another thing.
Yeah.
You know, you can mix. You know, it's like, you know, people have been talking lately about Black Panther, which is a great movie. You know, I saw the first movie. I didn't see the new one. But Black Panther is a good example. Jack Kirby did Black Panther. He invented
70s,
Jack
right?
in the 60s.
In the 60s.
And this is what people don't understand. Jack Kirby was neither black nor a panther. And
Yeah.
so
He's a white guy, right?
he's a white guy, he's Jewish. So what is important for people to know, they made a movie, the first movie, and the studio wasn't sure if it was going to be successful. It was very successful, very successful. So it's really important that we understand that stories can be about diversity. You know, they can be from any culture, and I hope I will see. I've lived long enough to see. Jack died many years ago.
Okay.
But
Rest in power.
it would be nice to see, in my lifetime, some real legends from Africa told, you know, in stories by African artists, writers, you know. So that's something I'll put out in the universe.
Got you. So those characters from Africa written by Africans?
Yeah.
Got you.
Or African Americans, but you know, the point is, it's fine that Jack Kirby did it.
Yeah.
But
he's outside.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay for an outsider to do it.
Yeah.
But it'd be great to have, and I know that there are African American artists who are doing these things, who have done these things, but it'd be nice to see more.
Got you. And on a grander scale.
Grander scale. Just like, you know, the studios, it's great that they did Black Panther. Don't get me wrong. And they used black actors, and it's great. But wouldn't it be great to really see something come up, you know,
From the culture.
from the culture?
From the roots all the way down.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the future. I think it'll happen.
Gotcha.
It'll happen. It's because Hollywood is getting more diverse, finally.
Yep.
When Star Wars was first made, Star Wars was basically white guys. Other than James Earl Jones played the voice of Darth Vader. My friend worked on the second one, and they thought I would really like the second one. I didn't like the first Star Wars, 1977. I said, you have all these aliens in the bar scene, all these different kinds of aliens.
Yeah, species and everything.
Everything. But everybody in the movie is white.
Yeah.
And I said, what kind of movie is this? So the second movie, they have Billy D. Williams in the movie. And they said, Phil, do you like it now? Oh, great. What black guy?
Did we fill your need?
Yeah. So I thought, wow, that's really, we're making progress really slowly. So now Star Wars is multi-ethnic. Okay, now. It's 2023.
Yeah.
1977,
50 years almost.
Yeah, 50 years. So I say to people all the time, we need to speed it up.
Definitely.
We need to speed it up. It's good. We're on the right track, but we like to see it move a little quicker.
Yeah.
Than So somebody said recently that the Academy Awards, they nominated Michelle Yeoh for Best Actress. She will be the first Asian woman to be, if she wins, she'll be the first Asian woman.
I believe she did win. It.
Yeah, but it's like, wow, this is crazy. All this time, we have one. I mean, wow, this is like, okay, but we have to move. I don't believe in tokenism. I don't like it when stories told, oh, we have a story and there's the black friend or the Asian friend or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't believe in tokenism. I think it would just be real life. My life, my kids' lives. My son, he's a filmmaker. My son is part Filipino, part Chinese, part white, everything.
Gotcha.
And my son, his best friend, one of his best friends is Arabic. He's Muslim. He's not Arabic. He's from Pakistan. And his other friend is a doctor who's Indian, from India. And so I always tell my son, he doesn't listen to me because who listens to their father?
Yeah.
I said, Gabe, you're make a movie about
your relationship.
3 friends. You can have all kinds of people. He has all kinds of African American friends, Mexican, whatever, because he has friends. They're all different people. You don't have to look for it. This is natural. These are your friends.
We live in America.
Yeah. And you actually have, these friends. So why don't you make a film just putting together your group of friends? It can be flowing, it can be natural.
Yep.
And that's what I like to see for the future. In some movies, some TV shows, a little bit, you see it.
Yeah, a little dabble.
It's very little.
Yeah.
It's usually, if a movie has a white actor as a lead, they now have maybe African American as a counter lead. They have interracial couples. That's great.
The co-star.
Yeah, so we're starting to see that more and more. But it's not enough for me because, I'm impatient, I suppose, but I've lived my life has been multicultural from the get-go.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
From birth.
From birth.
A product of multiculture.
So this is the thing. When you're a product of multiculturalism, you know it's perfectly normal. There's, a lot of the Dodgers were African American, and they lived in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I was a Yankees fan because I lived in New Jersey till I was 6. So I was a Yankees fan.
Gotcha.
Diehard Yankees fan. In those days, you loved your team. You didn't, I didn't like the Dodgers because I was a Yankees fan. So the Dodgers, 3 of the Dodgers would come to my mother's home, our house. The wives would come to the house for PTA meetings. Mm-hmm. And I would leave the house because I didn't want to be associated with the Dodgers.
With the Dodgers. Stay over there.
I think how stupid I was now, but that was when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it. All 3 of these Dodgers were African American. Mm-hmm. Because in my neighborhood, we had a richy part of town. And this is where you had to live. If you were wealthy, you still had to live. You couldn't live in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, still basically segregated.
Basically, at that time. And so that's okay. But what I was thinking about, that was a normal experience for my life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For my friends. We had people at our house, we went to their house, and they were all different colors, whatever. And I think that's something that really stayed with me all my life, was really reaching people and getting to know people and getting to know them going to their house. Not just, I know the African-American guy down the street. No, it wasn't like that. It was in the house. And they were in our house. And that's what I want to see everywhere.
Yeah.
I want to see a world everywhere. Just, it's normal.
Yeah. Intermingling,
Intermingling.
Everything.
If you're friends, you invite the kid over. If you're friends, you go to his house.
Yeah.
And my grandkids, I see this with some of my grandkids now. This is great. I don't think the barriers are going to be as tough as they were in my generation.
Yeah, in the 60s.
Yeah, because in the 60s, I didn't know this until I moved in 1970. I moved from L.A. to Los Alamitos, Seal Beach.
Much different.
Well, I went from an all-black school to an all-white school. And what really shocked me was...
Night and day.
Night and day. And I was shocked because it wasn't 20 minutes away was the white suburbs of Orange County. And I didn't know. When you're a kid, you don't know. There's a whole new world out there. But I didn't realize at the time that things were as segregated as they were.
Yeah, economically and everything.
Oh, definitely economically. And so that I started to really put together the pieces in my mind. I said, okay, this is interesting. These people have it so much better than this neighborhood.
Yep.
Why is that?
Yep.
And so then you start thinking about it. And so that started me on a path for social activism.
I like it.
And so,
you mentioned that you've done several murals, right?
yeah, over 2,000.
Is there a different headspace for painting murals and doing watercolors, oil painting? Is there a different headspace that you have to get into?
Well, one of my murals, I paint my murals, the bigger the better, and I invite the community to join me in filling in, the colors, or artists. If they're artists, they can paint, whatever they want. But if they're, amateurs, that I indicate, we're painting rocks or trees or whatever, but you can paint them whatever color you want, because that's another pet peeve of mine. I don't believe in green trees or, the same old thing. You want to make orange trees or purple or whatever, fine.
Knock yourself out.
Knock yourself out. Make it wild, because I think that's the freedom of art. That's what I want to give. And I want to have every kid, whoever is painting with me, to enjoy the process, to have fun. Just have fun. There's no mistakes. You can't do anything wrong. And that's great, because I painted murals, like I said, over 2,000 murals around the world. And I painted with kids as young as 2 years old and as old as 90, So at any age. And
Doesn't
it's
matter.
Great, because it's really great, just to see the look on the face. And people, a lot of kids tell me now, teenagers tell me this is the first time they've ever painted.
Wow. What would you think? For people who don't know the difference, what would you say the difference is between regular painting and doing a mural?
Well, a mural is a lot bigger.
Okay.
So generally, if you're doing a mural, like if I was doing this whole wall across, we paint murals I paint murals in 1 or 2 days. So it has to be done fast. So, but you have a lot of kids, and you just do it. But so it's not like you're sitting there painting a watercolor, little details. You're painting a big area. So
big surface area.
Big surface area. So you have to think differently. Your mind has to be in a different space in terms of thinking bigger. A lot of artists that I know cannot fathom thinking a big scale. I love to paint big. So, but I understand why they think, it's intimidating.
Oh, it's okay.
To a lot of people.
Okay.
But again, it's like comedy. To me, it's not intimidating. I don't think of it as intimidating. I think of it as fun. I always think of it as fun. If I went into my work, this is going to be hard, then I wouldn't do it.
Simple as that. Would you consider, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Michelangelo at the Sixtine Chapel that painted the roof?
Yeah, sure.
Would you consider that a mural?
Well, it would be like a mural. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a ceiling. Yeah,
So
sure.
it's a big surface area, right?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I went on your website and saw some of your artwork, and one of the ones that I really liked was, I believe it was called The Castle of the Lace Princess.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And there was another one that I thought was interesting, which I believe was called Anne's Escape.
Yeah, sure.
What does that mean, and what is Anne escaping from?
Well, that was in Amsterdam. That's a painting that I did for Amsterdam. Anne Frank, the little girl, was killed by the Nazis. And Anne, in my painting, I had a picture of a girl on a horse, signifying, okay, but she, in my mind, she escaped. She made it out. In real life, she was killed by the Nazis.
Yeah.
Anne Frank in her house is there in Amsterdam. The Holocaust is fitting you bring this up today, because today is National Holocaust Day.
Remembrance Day?
Yeah, the Remembrance Day.
Today is?
Today is.
Wow.
And what's interesting, it was on The View today, they had people talking about the Holocaust, and they said that 60% of Americans, kids today, do not know of the Holocaust. And I thought that was really kind of shocking, but I think it's important that everyone be taught about the Holocaust, about World War II, about what happened, because the only way to prevent something from happening is if we know, these things did happen in the past. So we have to know history, and I'm a big history buff. I love history, and I think that it's important that everyone should know history and get all, from all perspectives. But I have a lot of friends in Germany, and I can tell you that in Germany, they know about the Holocaust. They are very well aware of the Holocaust.
Yes.
And I think that it's important that here in America, our kids also know about it, because it was a terrible, terrible thing. They didn't just kill Jews. They killed anybody that Hitler thought was unworthy of being in there. They killed homosexuals.
Yeah, they killed a lot of Africans, a lot of Black Americans too, as well.
Sure. And they killed disabled people.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Jews. Jews were the primarily was Jews. But the point is, it doesn't matter. It's the whole idea of anybody could wipe out all these people for no reason other than the fact that they were different.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
I agree with you about people need to know, especially like Leopold killing a bunch of Africans. I definitely think Americans should know about the history of slavery, the history of the civil rights movement. I think that's very important, because if you don't know your history, it'll repeat itself.
It will. And speaking of Leopold, you think about what happened in the Congo.
Yep.
You think about, this is what people need to understand. There was so much destruction. I mean, it's incredible. All around the world, by these European powers, Belgium, France, Amsterdam, for that matter, the Netherlands. What we don't talk about, and we need to. We need to talk about it. And that's why I was saying earlier, I said, Black Panther's fine movie.
Yeah.
But let's see some real life movies can be, told in good ways,
From the culture.
Yeah, from the culture, and talk about these things. It wasn't that all Belgian people are bad, or all Dutch people are bad, but some were. And let's talk about it. And by the way, let's talk about the royal family in England, which I'm against because I'm Celtic. But
I love it. You won't talk about Stan Lee, but we're going here.
yeah, but we have to tell the truth. When a guy declares himself royal blood, on what basis are you royal blood? Your ancestor killed a guy at a battle in 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And now your kids are royalty. This is such nonsense. It's complete and utter nonsense. And I want the world to wake up and think about how ludicrous is this?
Do you believe in royal blood at all? Like in any cultures? Do you believe in
I think if I believe in royal blood, I say we're all royal.
Okay.
I love Queen Latifah because Queen Latifah says, hey, I'm a queen, and I think that's the way to be, because if this is the King of England, well, I'm the king of, Mars or whatever.
But, Crestline.
Yeah, Crestline. It's like, if I believe in royal blood only as much as if you're a king, I'm a king.
Okay.
If you're a queen, I'm a queen. In other words, if we're gonna deem somebody royal, then as far as I'm concerned, everyone is royal. Everyone is a king. Everyone is a queen. Everyone is a prince. Everyone is a princess. So when we talk about stopping African Americans or Hispanics by the police, which is a big issue these days, I say, well, maybe we ought to change the directive. Tell all the policemen, everyone is a king. Everyone is a prince. Everyone is a princess, a queen. So you have to treat everyone with the same respect, period. I don't care if you think they're a gangbanger or you think they're whatever. It doesn't matter to me. You can arrest them. If they're a bad guy, arrest them.
Yeah.
But you don't have to kill them. You don't have to beat them. This is nonsense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And this has got to, but I think the only way it changes is if, as a culture, we change the culture. And as a culture, we can raise our kids
Up.
You know, I think everyone who's ever been, I said I liked The Little Prince, was my favorite book. The Little Prince, I love this book because this was a story about a little, he was from another place, another planet. And I loved it because I think myself, when I was a kid, I used to look at the stars and think, I'm from another planet. I'm not from whatever you think I am. We can, each one of us can make our own mythology and our own story and our own reality. So we can invent ourselves.
I love it.
And that's why I really say this seriously. Dana is from New Jersey, and I'm from New Jersey. This is where I grew up until I was 6. And I like to say that Dana became Queen Latifah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Queen Latifah, by the way. U-N-I-T-Y, U-N-I-T-Y, that's the unity. Yeah, I just wanted to say something about the king and queen thing. I think it's a nice concept, but if everybody was a king and queen, then it would lose its value, if that makes any sense.
Well, or we all would have value.
Yeah.
And so if everyone is treated as royalty, maybe we'd have everybody acting like, a way we would like to think a queen or king or prince or whatever
Should be treated.
would act and be treated.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have people doing some of the dumb things they do.
Yeah.
They would always be respectful. They would always be, God, it'd be a far different world. It would be crazy, but what's so crazy?
I like it. I think if we started treating people that are like janitors like kings and queens,
Yeah,
people
exactly.
I think that would make our world a lot better because I think they're like overlooked.
By all means, because there is no such thing as a low job. A janitor is needed. You need to have janitors.
Yeah.
Believe me. You need to have nurses taking care of people. You need to have street sweepers, whatever. You need to have anybody. Everything is considered a low job if it's not paid on the level of our stockbrokers. To me, that's a low job. The guy who's making $1,000, $2,000 an hour or more, let's look at that. Let's consider that. Stop talking about the minimum wage, $15 an hour, $17 an hour. Let's look at these guys that make thousands of dollars an hour.
Huh.
So,
I can't, I used to be really opinionated about that, but then it's just like the market creates their value. Everyone gets their value from their market, and everyone gets what they deserve, in my opinion. Yeah, but that's a completely different conversation. But what I really wanted to get to you about is, we talked about, your artwork, watercolors, oil-based murals. For people who've like never really seen your style, they're kind of getting a little bit of it now. Maybe they're just listening. How would you define your style of art?
Gee, I don't know. I guess. Well, it's magic. I'll take my friend, a writer that I know, passed away recently. He was magic realism. So maybe my style is magic realism. It's kind of like it's real things, but there is a bit of magic. So it's based on real things, but it's obviously not, it's not a photograph.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Magic realism?
Yeah, magic realism.
I love that. I like that too. Are we coining that term right now?
Yeah, well, take it from my friend Bruce Taylor's.
Yeah, I love that.
But
I love that. That's super cool. And I can see it. So
Yeah.
can we talk a little bit about, it's called Cartoons Across America and the World?
Yeah.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how it started?
Well, it started when I interviewed Wally Amos, famous Amos, the guy
Make the
who did
cookies?
chocolate chip cookies.
Uh-huh.
So I interviewed Wally in 1985, and Wally got involved with literacy because he was invited to my old library in Los Angeles, the Holly Park Library. And I interviewed him with my young son, who's now 38, and he was sitting on my lap. He was a baby. And Wally said to me, I got involved with literacy because the Holly Park Library asked me to come down to the library and bring cookies to give to students who read a book. And you got an incentive, you had a cookie. And so Wally got involved with literacy. And then I was interviewing him a few years later, and I said, you know what, something, Wally? You've given me a great idea. I cannot do a lot of things because I'm a cartoonist, I'm an artist, and I'm not really good at math and all this stuff. But I think I can promote literacy because I love books. So I started because of Wally, and Wally actually went on quite a few events with me in the beginning, and it was great. It was great. In fact, Wally lived in Hawaii at the time, and in 1999, the Los Angeles County Library Association presented me and Edward James Olmos with the first Alfie Awards. And this was a bookworm. Alfie is a bookworm, really heavy, made out of, bronze or something. But anyway, they brought Wally from Hawaii to present the award to me. And it meant a lot to me. My kids were all there, and my friends were there, and it really meant a lot because I since 1985, I just found something I could do with my art. Could give it a face. What I love about my dinosaurs, I have these dinosaurs that read. They have a slogan: "Read, avoid extinction." And the dinosaurs are great because they're multicultural. You don't know, they're green and orange and yellow. So they don't, in other words, they can represent anyone.
Yeah, they're not restricted.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. And I think I've done so many books with the dinosaurs that I really believe that they became a way for me to, express my own feelings about history and whatever, without I guess what I do in my books is I try not to. It's not trying not to offend people, but it's trying to bring everyone under the tent.
Gotcha.
And I like to say I'm tricking people into higher consciousness.
I like it. Sometimes you have to. It's the artist's job.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can trick people you can shock people into higher consciousness, or you can make it go down a little easier. So I think my preferred method is to trick people into thinking, a little more open-minded.
I like it.
Without telling them.
Gotcha. So does cartoons across America and the world teach kids how to draw? What is
Well, we teach them how to draw, we teach them how to paint murals, but more importantly, when I speak at schools, and I speak all over the world, when I speak at schools, I say what I said on this podcast. I really stress, read. Don't go on, I always tell them, don't play video games, don't go on TV, the phone, whatever. I know they're going to do it anyway, but I say, look, just devote a couple hours a day to reading. You have to read, you have to do art, you have to exercise. I try to balance it because I know a lot of kids, especially now,
Yes.
Play a lot of video games and this kind of stuff. And I understand. It's everywhere. It's on the phone. It's, the kid goes to sleep and,
wakes up.
Play, yeah. And so I'm only saying balance. Have a balance in your life. And so this is the same message. I've been giving this message for a long time.
Yes.
Since 85. So I never thought I would be on the road still, but I realize now, I didn't think about it. Every generation I speak to grows up. Mm-hmm. And there's a new generation. So there's always new kids.
It's like a cycle.
Yeah, it keeps coming. And so I didn't realize at the time, I thought, I'll do this for 15 years. I'll do it 1985 to 2000. Well, 2000 came along and I was still doing it. Mm-hmm. Now I don't even talk about ending the tour. We're just doing it.
Let it go until it goes.
It goes until I'm dead. And hopefully somebody else will pick up the mantle and keep it going.
Moving. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Because it's important. I realize it's more important than anything.
Yeah.
We have to have educated people.
Period.
On this planet.
Period.
You can say anything you want to me about political differences or religious differences. I don't care. But the bottom line, read for yourself.
Yep.
I want people to read for themselves. Make your own mind up. Vote any way you want, do whatever you want.
Yep.
But please don't vote and say, well, the guy on TV or the guy on the radio said this. No, make up your own mind. Read. That's the only thing I ever said. And I have to say, Barbara Bush was a Republican First Lady. I'm a Democrat. But she had me at the White House. She painted with me in the Library of Congress. And I must say, I'm putting this out again. Any Democratic president, please call.
You hear that? Tell him right there to that camera. Tell that camera right there.
President Biden, we're waiting.
Yeah, any Democratic president.
Any Democrat. I've been through a few. So I have to say, Mrs. Bush, Barbara Bush, was really, really passionate about literacy. She really cared. And, I think it was real for her.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, and we always, when I saw her, I always said, Mrs. Bush, I'm a Democrat. And she'd always say, shh.
Awesome.
But it was really
Awesome.
funny because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what party you're from. What matters to me is that you reached.
The impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any country that you would like to go to help?
I think I would like to go to South America. I haven't been. Brazil has long been a favorite country of mine for no other reason. Some reason, when I was a little kid, I saw a picture in a children's encyclopedia of the Amazon, and it just looked so good to me. I thought, yeah, I like to go to Brazil. So I always used to have a Brazilian flag on my desk. And so I think, before I die, I would go to Brazil. Last year, we went to Barcelona, Spain, which I always wanted to see, and Iceland, and we went to Greece for a friend's wedding. So that's 3 new countries that I hadn't been to. And I love to travel.
Yeah.
I love to travel. I love it better when someone is paying for it other than me.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah, even better. So, but we're gonna put it in the universe.
Yeah. Brazil, here we come.
Yeah, Brazil. My friend David Brown has been to Brazil twice, and so maybe I'll tag along with him.
There we go. I wanted to speak about someone who's very important, I believe, that's in your life, who's been helping you a lot behind the scenes, and I want to talk about her and how important she's been in your life, your wife, Linda.
Well, there's no question. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Linda. Linda is actually the real reason that I'm in this area, because when she hired me for her library in 1985, I never left. I married her.
Okay.
And so she's changed my whole life, and I really can't say enough about her. She would be great on this podcast, but she doesn't like to be interviewed.
Oh,
but
it's okay. It's
she, everything I do, because I'm totally unaware of how the computer works, how websites work, anything. Linda does it all because I'm terrible at this stuff. So I totally rely on her help. And she is great. And she's the one that books the tickets and the hotels and when we travel. And
Gotcha.
I just say, okay, where are we going? And we're off.
You want to say anything to Linda?
Yeah. Hi, Linda. I love you.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate you, Linda. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done. So I'm pretty sure you've probably seen have you seen a change in your artwork since you've been with Linda, in your the way you've created art and stuff like that?
Well, I've seen a change since I had a stroke, but I think my artwork has been pretty consistent in terms of my themes.
Gotcha.
But my new work, which is over in the corner there, is probably even wilder than it ever was. And I think it's because I'm getting older and I'm just freer. I'm just really free. So I like these paintings or places that I went to that meant something to me. The new stuff in the corner are places that are on other planets. I don't know.
Gotcha.
They're just totally wild. So, I think my later work is totally free.
Is there a name for those?
I can't remember what we're calling this series.
Gotcha.
We keep changing the names. But
Out of this world.
yeah, out of this world. So, but these paintings over here are like a blueprint for a world I like to see.
Uh-huh.
So when I paint now, I think about okay, I would like to see flying cars or flying people or whatever. And, with art, you can do anything.
And it's limitless.
It's
Back to
limitless
again.
And so you can just make anything. And what's really great about the new stuff is you can just create anything.
I love it.
So it's unlimited. And that is really good for the mind, because when I'm thinking about things now, I think, yeah, I like to see, this or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, I wrote a story about my unicorn, Frank, and in it he goes with a friend into a world they are shrinking. So they start off as full size, and then they go down to the size of, like ants or less.
Okay.
And the reason I thought of this was I thought, this is great. This is the way the world could save energy, save food, whatever, because we would shrink. We would all, I haven't worked out all the details.
Take up less space, less energy usage.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But
I'm with you.
It was a great concept for me to think about, we can make a world even better by making us smaller. And so I'll leave it to some other scientists to figure out how we're really going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my idea is just have the idea.
Period.
Yeah. And then let somebody else figure it out. And that's what's really great about doing what I do.
Yeah.
When I write stories about time travel, for instance, I don't have to figure out how do we really travel in time.
Yeah.
I just write a story.
Yeah.
And my characters go 1,000 years in the future. And boom, they're there. And then I just make up whatever I think happens. And so a lot of my stories involve a world where a lot of people didn't read. And so the world becomes bad, becomes crazy.
Okay.
And so my characters have to change the world.
Okay.
So it's really kind of fun because I can invent new scenarios.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna tell a quick story. Like I also like to write myself, and I remember I wrote a script years ago, and I was in a bar, like doing some editing, and I think this is like when they were giving previews for Black Panther, and I was writing it, and then this girl, she was a waitress, she's like, "Oh, did you start writing that because a Black Panther came out?" And I was like, "No, I've been writing ideas like this before," but it's just going back to like small-minded people and misconceptions. They're just like, you're only writing a story about Black people living in this type of multi-universe because Black Panther came out. And it's like, no, only you are aware of us writing stories outside of the norm.
That's it. Yeah.
But, it's okay. But I still write, I have great imagination stories, sci-fi stories. And one day they'll come to fruition.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone has a story. Most people don't take the stories that are in the mind and put it on paper.
Yep.
If you've done that, you're already ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. Next step, somebody make it into a book or a graphic novel or a movie or a play.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it takes the idea to paper, you follow the steps, but it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
And
just do it.
Anybody can do it. Mm-hmm. Anybody. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I'm always saying to anybody I meet. I say, if you have an idea, put it down. And if it's a comic book or a graphic novel or whatever, or you want to make it into a play or a movie or a little film, you use a phone to film it.
Yeah.
So what? It doesn't matter. Just get it down. Get it acted. Get it into reality.
Yeah.
You make it reality.
Yep.
And That's what people don't understand. They think that the creative process is some mystery. It's some really, I have to go to college to do this. No, you don't have to go to college. College has nothing to do with it. Just do it. And that is what I'm always saying to anyone. I have so many friends that have created so many things. Javier Hernandez, who created El Muerto. El Muerto was made into a movie, and he created 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it was an independent comic book. So I think people, they need to stop, I have to do this step, or I have to get a lawyer, or I have to, whatever. They make it so complicated. There's nothing complicated about it. You just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. And so that's one of the reasons that I wanted Ernie to start the Garcia Center here in San Bernardino. The reason I said to Ernie, I said, San Bernardino has got a wealth of talent. There's a wealth of really talented people. And everyone is written off San Bernardino.
Yep.
And I said,
fact.
Let's not write off San Bernardino. Let's all get together, get the energy going. One of the things I hope that I will live to see is really affordable housing in San Bernardino set up for artists, writers, potters. They have a pottery studio here. Anything creative. We have to have a space for it. And what a better place than San Bernardino, which has got a ton of empty buildings.
A lot.
Yeah. So let's take these empty buildings and turn them into useful working space, like the Garcia Center, which was totally abandoned before it was redone. And I think this Garcia Center proves what I'm saying.
Yeah, a workable place and a livable place.
Yeah, and we have to have livable, affordable housing for artists, especially.
I love that.
So
I love that.
I'm putting that out there.
I like that.
Again.
I like that. So Phil, thank you so much for being on the pod. Can you tell us any current projects that you're working on?
Well, I'm working on Frank the Unicorn book. I'm working on a book of black and white drawings. I'm doing a book of color paintings as well. So I have 3 projects, and then I found a cover I did last time, 12 years ago, was the year of the rabbit. And now it's the year of the rabbit again.
I know, interesting.
And so I had a stroke. I couldn't draw. Now I can. So I'm going to bring back, I have a character, Patrick Rabbit. And Patrick Rabbit is a master of origami. And so he makes origami. And it's a crazy story, but it's origami, but he can fly and, all kinds of stuff with this origami.
I love it.
So I'm going to do that book this year, which is 12 years late, but anyway.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it's perfect timing. And I really don't believe in time. I don't believe in death. I don't believe in... I think I'm on Albert Einstein's page with this one. Albert Einstein says time was a circle. It's not a line. It's not a timeline. It's a circle. So if you think of time being a circle, that's why multiple universes exist at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have an endpoint. You can't say, oh, I was born or I was 2 years old this time. It doesn't matter. You're 100 years old on this timeline, but it doesn't matter. It's a circle. So the reason I say this, especially now that I'm approaching 70, I've never believed in death, ever. But I really mean it now more than ever, because as you're approaching death, you start thinking about what you leave behind for your kids, your grandkids. And I want to leave behind for my kids and grandkids that concept, there is no death. That's what I believe. Now, if you say, well, I don't believe that, well, that's okay.
Yeah,
But
believe whatever you want to believe.
Yeah, you believe what you want to believe. I just happen to believe, as Ray Bradbury believed, as many of my friends believed, there is no death.
Yeah. For example, the soul will continue to live on. The body may not.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The soul will continue to
Yeah,
live
exactly. So the body will end, but the soul continues. And that's the secret. If the soul continues, how does it continue? Well, it depends what you believe. And that's not for me to say. But I believe the energy, your soul, continues. And that's important, because that way everybody out there can understand the concept that if they have a soul, they believe in the soul, and it continues, then maybe that they have to pay attention to the soul, rather than money and wealth and all this. I have a Lamborghini. You can have all the material wealth in the world. When you're dead, this doesn't do it any good. So I think it's important to get. This is a metaphysical discussion.
Oh, we're here.
But
we're here.
That's okay, because I'm very much a metaphysical kind of guy. I really believe in quantum physics, okay? So you have to think outside the box. You think outside, this is my life. This is what I do, bum, 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 bum. One of the things that I don't have a job and had never had a real job was because I don't really believe in the concepts that they lay on, when I was young, get a job, So I said, well, I understand it. I don't believe it, but I understood it. But I chose not to go that route. And
in your path,
it's worked out okay.
I love that. And going back to the materialism, a lot of people like to feed their material. They say they're material man, they're physical man, and they forget a lot about their spiritual man. So I kind of agree with Phil talking about don't forget to satisfy your spiritual man. And I also wanted to relate to about time passes by. So Phil, let's say 100 years pass by, 250 years go by. What would you like your empire to look like regarding your art, your lifestyle, your family? How would you like your empire, Phil Yeh's empire, to look like?
Well, I don't know that I really believe in the empire. I think what you can do as a human being, you can hopefully leave behind enough that somebody can look at your work and say, oh, I get it. And then they can make up, their own thing. So I think that's the only thing an artist can do, is leave behind music or whatever art they did, so the next generation or the next one can still get something from that, rather than a fad. Rather than, this is cool, this is the hip new thing. Rather than that kind of thinking, you have to think more in terms of, forever. And that's the way I've always looked at my art, was just like any other artist who came before me, who made a difference to me. Vincent van Gogh was not an artist very long. He wasn't, he didn't paint for a long time, but his paintings made a mark, and they left a mark with me. He's my favorite painter. Saint-Exupéry, who wrote The Little Prince, he was killed in an airplane crash. He died, but his book, The Little Prince, still is out there, still is translated. So I think if you can leave something behind like that, wow, that's pretty good. And that's all you can hope for. You hope, but
You can hope.
yeah, you hope. You have to keep hope alive. I think it's some president who used that term.
Someone said that.
Yeah, someone said that. But I think you have to. You have to keep hope alive. I have 9 grandchildren, and I think about them, and I think about all kids every day. I think about just giving a kid, a person, something to, like I said, how do I get into this? And then you just say, hey, this is how you do it. And the reason I know, it's not just Ray Bradbury and Jack Kirby, it's hundreds of artists that I interviewed myself over the years, hundreds of people. And what did I find out? From all fields, they all had the same thing. They all started the same, with nothing. Then they just, I'm going to go into this or do that, whatever. But before that, they all told me the same thing. I was lost.
Yeah.
And then I found something. And I think that's the key. So keep looking. If you haven't found it, keep looking.
Keep looking.
Don't give up.
Yes.
If you just say, I'm giving up, I'm not going to do anything, well, then you are lost. But if you're still looking, don't worry. Just keep looking. I always bring up this guy, William Steig. He created Shrek when he was 88 years old, I believe.
Wow.
You have to look it up, fact check me. Okay. But I think he was 88 when he created Shrek, or he was 82 or something.
Wow.
But this is so important. You can be any age and create an idea that, the world sees. They made movies, So he started with children's books. He didn't live to see Disney or whoever made the movie, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to be alive to see the movie. Jack Kirby created Black Panther in 1966, I believe, and Jack passed away in the 90s, and so he didn't live to see what happened. But it doesn't matter, because I don't believe in death. I believe Jack Kirby sees it. But let's be adversarial for a minute and say, Jack Kirby's dead. Okay, but the Black Panther isn't.
The work lives on.
The work lives on. So that's the thing. If you create something, it can go on forever. And I think that's important for anybody who wants to get involved with the arts, which I hope is everybody. Because I encourage everyone to be an artist. Everyone to be an artist doesn't mean you have to paint. You can act, you can sing, you can dance, you can,
It's endless.
Endless. Everything. Cook. You can do everything as an art. So it's important that people understand everything can be an art. So it doesn't matter what you do, just do something.
Yeah.
So that's where I leave it.
Got you. And so your empire is just as long as to have your work outlive you.
Yeah.
I love that. Phil, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Appreciate you. Can you please tell everybody how they can find you, reach you, want to buy your art, support your art, maybe take that trip to Brazil, can you please let them all know how they can find you?
I believe our website is Winged Tiger, Winged, WINGED, Tiger.com. I believe that's our website. Don't quote me on this, but
I'll put the right in the description,
yeah,
so don't worry.
but I think that's the website, and you can reach me through that.
Gotcha. Do you have any social media or anything like that?
I'm on Facebook, Phil Yeh, Phil Yeh at Gmail or again, Phil Yeh.
Yeah. Google him, you'll find him.
Google Phil Yeh and you'll find me.
Yeah, and that's PHILYEH. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and I'll have everything in the description so you guys can just click it and get right to it. We got his back, you know. Man, what a great podcast. We learned a lot about Phil, about cartoon history, how he knew all these people, man. He knew Kirby, who started the universe, you know, his art career starting at 2 years old, how he grew up in Watts. So much great information here. You know, the cartoons across America. So much great stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Antonio Lee Miles. I want to thank you guys all for watching and tuning in. We wouldn't be here without you. Please like and subscribe, share. If you want to support the podcast, you like our work, you can go CashApp, $THEE Empire Podcast if you want to support the work. Appreciate you guys. Other than that, we will catch you guys in the next one. All right? Peace. I say it's my duty. Yeah. Is it my will? Yeah. To do what? Yeah. To do is right. I say. I hope my wife's still here.